Hey guys, Jim here. Today we're going to explore a newer model offering from Geoff over at Tuffknives called the Switch. And for those that don't know, he has pretty much retired the Tannic, which is really the knife that made him probably the most famous. And only people that have already been on his order books for a Tannic will be seeing a new one. Other than that, he's not taking orders for them. And he has moved over into some other models. And my personal favorite is this one. It's called the Switch. And what the Switch represents for me as a consumer is watching Geoff evolve to the point where his skills are so more refined than they were even just a year ago. It's ridiculous. And you've heard me mention that a few times in other videos, and probably most notably when I got my second Tannic, which is my Wharncliffe Tannic. This was, oh geez, leaps and bounds better than my original Tannic from the Golden 20. Mine was number 3. It was an amazing knife. Nothing that I would ever say that I disliked about it, but it just shows that he's continued to better himself more and more and more with every knife that he makes. And it also, when you look at this knife, you're going to see that he gets bored really fucking quickly. He wants to keep pushing himself into doing completely different things, not just sticking to the same old, same old. So this is really a wonderful departure for him. Before I get too far into it, I want to thank the gentleman who donated this knife for this show, or for this video, I should say. Show, what the hell? It's not a fucking show. Sorry about that. His name is Blades and Bike on Instagram. Young guy, really getting into collecting, and this was the first time he spent this amount of money on a knife, and he was understandably nervous about that, and he got it and easily justified the money that he spent. I won't share what he spent because it's not my place to do so, but believe me when I tell you this was not an inexpensive knife. What you're looking at here is what I think one of the most beautiful knives that Geoff has made in any series, whether it be Tannic or Switch or otherwise. And it's a really great size also. What you've got here is a really compact knife. He has really squeezed every bit that he could out of this to keep it compact. You've got a 3.5-inch blade, very useful blade, nice and sharp, great grind. I'll show you that in a few minutes. And it's only 8 inches overall. So he's really maximized the amount of space that he has in that handle. To give you a quick size comparison up against the Tannic, here is my Tannic. And you got to realize there's a really big curvature here, so it's actually a bigger knife than what you think it is. Put these butt to butt as they belong, and you'll see that it's about a 1/4 inch smaller than the Tannic. Now, it's a little bit harder to do it with the Wharncliffe, because he only made 2 Wharncliffes, and the Wharncliffe comes out to be a longer cutting edge than the original Tannic. The original Tannic probably would have started cutting up right about here. So they're not that far off in size, but there is a big weight difference. There's a little bit of a thickness difference. It's not a huge difference, but there certainly is. And it feels tremendously different in the hand. I really like how this feels. It's a little bit small for somebody with really big hands. I wear a size large glove, and you see that the butt comes right to my pinky, and basically the same way that the Tannic does. Except the Tannic with the curvature, it kind of, I don't know, kind of locks you into it a little bit. So let's get back to the Switch here. When I talk about refinement, I'm talking about everything all the way around. The materials that he's using, such as the GTC bearings inside, he's using the ceramic bearing version because he wants everything to be as smooth as humanly possible, and that's a big jump for him. You go back to a knife he made a year ago, the action may have been great, the detent may have been great, but they weren't, you know, like purely glass smooth, and that's something that he has worked very, very hard in getting better and better on over time. You'll also notice all of the additional work that's gone into it, just beveling off these edges here to give it a little bit more, I don't know, more of an interesting look, something that's not basic, that's not plain. And again, that's one of the reasons I love my Tannic. You know, you guys know I went really wild on my first Tannic, and this one I wanted to be fairly basic, and that's exactly what I got. except he still did cool stuff by contouring the frame and everything else, but there's not a lot of geometry here to the actual design, where you do see that in the Switch. Even just looking how he's made his backspacer, notice that it's not one same width all the way down like on my Tannic. Starts off narrow, gets wider, gets narrower again. He allows some of it to protrude and some of it to disappear into the frame. All done with a very conscious effort. Then you look at the way he sculpted the titanium clip. The bevels that have been done there just to give you something a little bit more interesting to look at. And when he does something like he's done here with the finish work, it allows a bit more of that color to pop. All the way around the outer edges. Nice clean satin finish with that golden bronze anodizing, which is a really wonderful contrast to all the black. Let's take a quick look at the grind here. Just magnificent. Beautifully done. Love that very dramatic, very long top swedge. This really is a striking knife, no matter what angle you view it from. Beautiful pivot work. He's created the illusion of a pivot collar in there just by counterboring down a little bit further into the titanium, leaving that raw, and then doing the anodize after he's done the black finish. I don't know. Would you? I guess you would have had. He would have had to have done the anodizing after the black finish was done. I really don't know how the different processes work on that, so that's just my basic assumption. Clean work inside and out. There is the lockup. Allow it to focus here. Come on, focus. There we go. He's still doing this. My Tannic was one of the early pieces that he started doing this. That little channel that allows your finger to just kind of glide right down it and doesn't feel like your fingers are just jamming into two raw pieces of titanium. That's a really sucky ass feeling. The action on this thing is amazing. Super smooth. Great detent. You can hear it as it drops into place. See if we can get it up in there. Great detent. What he's done with this one, this is one of 4 that he's made in this black finish. What he's doing is actually powder coating, which I don't know how many guys in the knife industry have really done. We've obviously seen black knives. They're either done in DLC, or some guys will do it in a like a Cerakote or gun coat finish, which is what I assumed this was when I first received it in the mail. And Geoff corrected me. He's like, no, it's actually a true powder coat. So this should actually hold up really well over time in the pocket. And, you know, the guy that owns this has actually used the knife, and you'll actually see a couple little marks right there. But they're not bad. You notice how they're not really tearing through the finish and exposing the blade steel underneath. It's left marks that I'm sure would clean off. I just didn't feel the responsibility to do that myself. I give it a quick wipe down with Aegis EDCI solution like I do with all of my knives, and just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it seems to be a really tough, really durable finish. I can't speak to it fully because I haven't experimented with it. I've never owned a knife with it, and I don't know anybody that has over a long period of time that carries and uses their knives. So maybe we'll just have to wait for this young gentleman to report back after a year or two of use and see what he says about it. But it really gives a striking look, and it's not just about powder coating everything black. That would have been a very simple way to do things. Instead, what Geoff chose to do was give this a really wonderful two-tone by giving that nice clean satin finish all the way around and doing the anodizing. My favorite version, he did one where all the parts on this that are in that golden bronze, he did in blue. A really rich royal anodized blue. That was my favorite. And that's pretty much the direction I want to go in if Geoff ever gets around to making my Switch. I'm kind of looking at this going, you know, I wanted something really fancy, and I wanted Timascus or superconductor or whatever, but every time I touch this, every time I look at it, it's still one of the most beautiful knives I've come across. So I think that's the route I want to go. I want to go black and blue with mine, or black and purple. This is just a great, striking visual. I mean, look at the lines. Look how clean all of this is. You look at how he's done this beautiful hand rub satin on the flats to really break up the black. Then he's done a mirror polish on that grind all the way around, on that secondary bevel. This is just amazing. And I don't know how it's going to play on camera. All I can tell you is, in person, it's absolutely gorgeous. I had a chance to sit down and do some photography on it, and I still don't even think that the pictures bring out the beauty and the striking lines that are on this knife as well as it does in person. It really is one of those knives that the more you look at it, the more in love with it you are. Just gorgeous. He has chosen CTS XHP for the steel. They gave him some nice finishing options. There is the black along the top too. Clean work all the way around. And the thing with Geoff is everything is done by hand, so all of the little detail work that he's doing here, he's not just punching a bunch of numbers into a computer to make it happen. He's doing all this himself. And again, I want to be very clear when I say that. It's not to insult anybody that relies heavily on CNC and all that kind of good stuff. That's an art in and of itself, and I think it's great. But it is important to note when a maker is using either CNC or water jet, or he's doing the majority or all of his work by hand. As I understand it, Geoff has the handles done in water jet, and it's a very basic overall shape, and then he sculpts everything. And it's not even just about sculpting, and he'll actually bring the frame down into a different size manually. So he's just basically getting a rough cut done in water jet. And all of the additional work that you see here is all done by him with the machines that he has in his garage. And I loosely call it a garage. When you think of a knife maker working out of a garage, you think of a 1 or 2 car garage. He has a pretty massive building on his property that technically is a garage, but it's a huge workshop. I mean, it's really, really big. There are makers out there that have been doing this for 20 years and have put out some world-class product that work in a shop that's half his size. So he's got a wonderful benefit of having the room to add all the machinery that he's going to need over the course of his career. This thing is just stunning. It's the best word that I can use for this is stunning. Like I said, I love my Tannic. It's a fantastic knife. He did an incredible job on it. It's one of the knives that I carry a lot, I use a lot. It really is a treasure in my collection, but it feels somewhat, I don't want to say pedestrian, but it definitely feels somewhat basic as compared to a knife like this. This was well thought out from the get-go, the ergonomics, how it's going to hold in the hand, how it's going to carry in the pocket. The action, smooth, refined, clean. And I could actually do a gravity close if I wanted to, but I really don't want to bang into my camera by holding it completely upright. It's a breathtaking piece, and I think that anybody that ever gets the chance, listen, he doesn't really take orders, so it's not like you can just pick up the phone and go, oh, hey, Geoff, I saw that video. I want you to build me a switch. It's not like that. You'll see some come across Blade HQ. He'll do batches of, 10 or 20 knives for them from time to time. You'll see people post theirs for sale in the Cove or elsewhere. If you ever get the opportunity to own one, the reason I wanted to make this video is to let you know, jump on it. It really is that nice. But there is a secondary purpose for this video. This knife was sent back to Geoff because Geoff loved this particular one so much. He wanted to use it as a model for a possible upcoming Midtech. Now, I wouldn't suggest to expect that you're going to be getting, the powder coating and all that stuff. But I mean, as far as all the dimensions, the measurements, the operation of the knife, this very well could turn into a Midtech production very, very soon. So he did send this off for the prototyping. He will be getting a prototype for the Midtech based off of this exact knife. And I got to tell you, if he hits the price point that I would expect him to, and I don't want to box him into any number by saying it here on the video, but I think he would probably stay competitive with some of the more popular Midtechs that are out there right now. And if he's able to achieve that, and the quality of the knife exhibits the same kind of fit and finish and detail and action that this one does, I think it's going to be one of the nicest Midtechs out there. It's a great size for people to EDC. It's not too big and cumbersome to get in the way. You're not really going to have to worry about crazy state knife laws where you have some states where if the blade length is 4 inches or more, you got to get a concealed carry permit and things like that. You know, it's just a great size that I think pretty much everybody will be able to benefit from. If he hits the price point that I think that he would hit, this would be a monster success, and I hope that he makes a shitload of them. And realize that some of the makers that are making Midtechs are allowing you to choose options to modify it a bit, make it a little bit more special, and I would expect that Geoff would do the same. Again, I don't want to box him into doing something just because I said it in a video and it raises a certain expectation. But Geoff's that kind of guy that he always wants people to have something special. And even when he thinks he's done with the knife, he'll sit on it for another day or two before he ships it. And he'll eventually think of something interesting and unique and cool to do. You know, like again, on my Tannic. The clip was one of the last things that he did. This is a clip that doesn't exist on any other Tannic. He wanted to do something different and cool and fit with the flow of this design. And that was a complete surprise to me when I got the knife. So he's just one of those guys that he wants to go above and beyond. He wants to impress everybody. Everybody that puts their hands on one of his knives, he wants to impress. And with the work that he's been putting out over the past, especially the past year, I think it's really easy to be impressed with Geoff as a knife maker. If you've gotten a chance to know Geoff like I have, you'll be impressed with him as a person. His work ethic is very, very strong. He's a good, loyal person that gives a shit about the product he's putting in people's hands. He's not just quickly grinding something out and putting a huge price tag on it and then just saying, see ya, hope you like it. He really does give a shit. And I think that plays out in each and every knife that he puts out, because everyone has a different stamp of uniqueness. Always something a little bit different. Even if he made 3 knives that were identical, there'd be a little change in each one to signify that it's a unique piece that came out of his shop. All right, guys, I've taken up quite enough time on this. I just wanted to make sure people got a chance to see it, that you understand that there is a very high likelihood that there will be a Midtech knife, and that Midtech knife is based off of this exact knife here in this video. And I hope that everybody gets a chance to own one, to feel this in the hand, to feel every bevel that's on this handle, the way that it just melts into your hand, to see the detail work that he's put into every aspect of this knife. And whether you can or can't afford one of his customs, or can or can't find a way to get your hands on one, if there's a Midtech that comes out based off of this, it's going to make a lot of people real fucking happy. All right, guys, with that, I'm out of here, and I will see you on the next video.